Hey, how you doing today? Great as always. Welcome back to another edition of Toon Talk. Today, I'm going to continue my series of 10 out of 10 albums. Today we're going over the 1970s edition. I already went over the 60s, and I plan on going all the way up to the 2020s. I have quite a few albums from each decade I'd like to go over, and just kind of recommend to some who may have not heard some of these, but if you're a music fan like me, I highly doubt that's the case, but I figured it'd be fun to go over them anyway. So let's go ahead and get started. Gonna be a shorter video, just want to kind of give like a brief 1 minute chat over each album. So yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We're gonna be starting off pretty well known here with David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. This is David Bowie's fifth studio album. Came out way back in the 70s, of course. Came out in between two of his other most incredible albums, those being Hunky Dory and Aladdin Sane, which I love both of those as well. But I do, at the end of the day, consider this to be his best work. I'm a big Bowie fan, especially his earlier albums and the Berlin trilogy. And I think this album just encapsulates everything great about David Bowie and more, because there is incredible songs on here. You have the awesome concept of an alien coming down to Earth and being an awesome musician. You just have the incredible production, Bowie's great guitar playing, his awesome vocals. You have the just the amazing production. And it also portrays him as a character, which is one of the things he's most well known for, and I would say that this is by far his most popular character. So you just have all of Bowie's greatest attributes and features shoved into one single record. And it really shows, because the track list here is so freaking strong, with you having, you've got Moon Age Daydreams, Starman, Rock and Roll Suicide, 5 Years, It Ain't Easy, Ziggy Stardust. Every song here is just an absolute jam. It is so fun to listen to front to back. Every song is great. I really don't have any complaints with the track list, and with me just being a big fan of Bowie's work, I would consider it his best record. But he has so many, I would say he has 5 albums besides this that are a 9 out of 10. I want to give Black Star a 10 out of 10 so bad. It's right there. And on some days I do, but I don't know. I really try not to give a single artist 10 out of 10 albums. I have a whole list of them, but Black Star is pretty close. But yeah, I would consider this Bowie's best work. I know it's kind of a cliche pick, but it truly it deserves its classic reputation. Alrighty, next up is London Calling by The Clash. I would consider this to be one of the most definitive punk records of all time. It's just phenomenal front to back, with so many fun to sing along to songs. I would say that's the big reason that this album's a 10 is because this is one of the most fun albums to sing along to, especially London Calling, the opener and the title track. The chorus, the London Calling, yes, I was there too. It's impossible not to sing along. It's just so fun. You have, stuff like Jimmy Jazz and Hateful and Lost in the Supermarket, Clamp Down, which I love, Spanish Bombs. You got the Card Sheet, Revolution Rock, just great track list front to back. It is a long ass album though. It's 19 tracks and it's over an hour. So that is my only complaint is sometimes I don't have all the time in the world to sit from it front to back, but truly just incredible songwriting, incredible instrumentation, awesome lyrics. All the songs are a jam. I listen to it quite a bit. I would say that my favorites have to be Clamp Down, London Calling, and Lost in the Supermarket. I would say that those are just the most badass songs on here. But all the songs on here are great, and I think that they're all well worth a listen. But yeah, that's all I want to say about that one. I do consider it a 10 out of 10 as well. Next up is going to be Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures from 1979. So cutting it pretty close here. It almost was in the 80s. And this is just another one of those iconic, one of those one of the most memorable post-punk groups and bands out there. This is only one of two of Joy Division's albums. The cover is absolutely incredible. It has one of my favorite album covers ever. It is just so surreal, so bizarre, and so simplistic all at the same time, and I love it. And just the track list here, it's so tight. It's under 40 minutes. It's only 10 tracks. But from front to back, those 10 tracks are just banger after banger, incredible songwriting front to back. Opener Disorder is fantastic. Candidate, She's Lost Control, and Shadow Play. The closer I Remember Nothing. Really just phenomenal front to back. No complaints from me. It is as well known as it is for a reason. And I really don't have any complaints about it. I would say it has deserved its classic reputation, and I would call it a 10 out of 10 record. Next up is one that I know some people might not consider. Led Zeppelin is my second favorite band of all time. I have listened to them countless times. I've listened to all 8 of their records multiple times. I know them like the back of my hand. And a lot of people would consider Led Zeppelin 4 their best album, and while I do think that album is also a classic and is basically a 10, it's like right on the verge of it. I consider Physical Graffiti to be their best album. If you haven't checked out my Led Zeppelin tier list, I highly recommend it. For those of you who have seen it and are watching this, I had Physical Graffiti at the top of that list, and I truly do believe that it is Led Zeppelin's best work. All 4 members were on their A game, especially Plant and John Bonham. John Bonham's drums sound the best they ever did on here, of course, besides for When the Levee Breaks. And Plant's singing really stands out on so many of these tracks with, Custard Pie and The Rover and Cashmere and The Wanton Song and Sick Again, all these incredible tracks. And it also has one of my favorite songs ever, that being In My Time of Dying, which is the longest Led Zeppelin song and is my favorite song they ever made, which I know a lot of people might not consider that a top tier Zeppelin track. It is definitely for me. I think that track is outstanding, and if that was the only song on here, this would still be like a 9, but then you have all these other amazing tracks surrounding it. And while I do think near the end with, Black Country Woman and Boogie with Stu, it does kind of fall off a little bit, it is nowhere near enough for me to not consider this a 10. This album's a 10. It's one of my favorite double albums of all time. It's one of my favorite rock albums of all time. It has to be on this list. And it's just classic Led Zeppelin. That's really all I can say about it. And we're going to move on now to Television's Marquee Moon. This is one that I did not discover until, I think, 2 years ago. It's relatively recent for me. But when I heard it for the very first time, I was just blown away. The main thing I'm blown away by is the guitar playing on here, the guitar work. Some of the catchiest freaking riffs I have ever heard show up on here, especially on the title track, Marquee Moon, which is a 10-minute banger, which I freaking listen to all the damn time. It is just absolutely incredible. But that's not the only reason that this album's great. There's other amazing tracks too, such as, See No Evil and Friction and Venus, and the closer Tom Curtin, which is also amazing. It's my second favorite song on here. Elevation is great. It's a shorter track list. It's 8 tracks, but it's about 45 minutes long, something like that. So each track is relatively longer in length, but it is made up for with how intricate these songs are, with how well produced those songs are, how well they are written. And I have no complaints among the track list. I think that everything on this album is amazing. I would happily consider it a 10, and I do love it. It's hard to consider them punk, but I would consider this another essential punk album during the punk movement, of course, of the 70s. But yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who has not listened. Next up is going to be Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. I'm kind of blocking the name, so my apologies for that. But this is one of the most beautiful records I've ever heard. It's a fantastic soul record. Marvin Gaye's lyrics and his vocals sound incredible. The jazz work on here just sounds great, especially on the title track and the opener, What's Going On. which for some reason brings a tear to my eye, just for what it symbolizes. And I also love this record because of what it represents. Like, this was during a time where African Americans were starting to experience some difficulties in society, which they had before, but it was very apparent at this time, and Marvin Gaye's the way he represents that through the music is just so, like, it's so delightful, it's so emotional, it's so thought-provoking, and he really just represents that through his singing, how emotional it is, and you can tell that he truly cares about what he is singing about. It doesn't feel like he's just singing it for a paycheck. He actually cares about these topics. He actually wants to get them out to the world in a creative way, and he does it perfectly. This album is absolutely outstanding, with other tracks like What's Happening Brother and Save the Children, God is Love, Right On, Inner City Blues, just fantastic front to back. It's a shorter album. It's not even 40 minutes. I think it's only like 35 minutes or something like that, and it is well worth every minute, and I think that it is a 10 out of 10, no questions asked. Alright, next up is going to be Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. This is another one that I just got onto recently. I'd say about 2 years ago or so, when I first started becoming a big music nerd. And this album is just flawless in every way. There's a reason that this, I think it was in the top 5 on Apple Music's top 100 albums of all time, and for good reason. Not only is this the album that got me into Stevie Wonder, but it is also his best work by far, in my opinion, and he has some other incredible albums too. But I think that the writing on this is just the best that it ever was for Wonder, and I think that he has the most emotion in his singing on this record. I absolutely love the opener, Love's in Need of Love Today. It's a longer song. It's about 7 minutes, which that's another thing about this album. This album's long as shit. It's a double album. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. So many songs. I think there's 21 tracks total. But just every moment, every ounce of every song is so engaging and so thought-provoking and just grips you until the very end. And most of the time when I listen to a single track, I'm listening to the whole damn thing without even noticing. Especially when I listen to tracks like Have a Talk with God and Sir Duke and I Wish and Ordinary Pain, Isn't She Lovely especially, which is one of his most well-known songs for good reason. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely breathtaking. The cover is fantastic. Just everything about it truly is a work of art, and I would probably say, like, even though it's not my favorite, I would probably say that it is the best out of all the albums on this list, which is saying a lot because they're all 10 out of 10s in my opinion, but this is the record to me that just goes above and beyond the most. I would say that a close second would be What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Even though those aren't my favorites, we're going to get to my favorite, but this truly is a masterpiece, and I think it should be heard by everybody who likes music in any sense of the word. But I'm going to leave it there. Next up is most likely my favorite out of all these on this list, just because I absolutely adore the band behind it, and this album has a very special place in my heart for a lot of reasons, and that is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. This is their 9th studio album, and it is the one they made right after Dark Side of the Moon, which was one of the biggest albums of all time, and is probably one that you all were expecting to be on this list. And while I do think Dark Side is basically perfect, it's not the album I want to give a 10 to. I want to give it to this one right here, Wish You Were Here, the one that came right after. And people are like, well, why do you say that? It's not as inspired or like well known as Dark Side of the Moon. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that this album from front to back just has the best songwriting, in my opinion, out of any Pink Floyd album. Especially the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It has 9 parts, but it's separated into 2 different sections. One, there's a couple parts at the beginning, and there's a couple parts at the end. I like to listen to it as a whole. It's a 25-minute opus. It is absolutely breathtaking, and it represents the loss of Syd Barrett, the band's original front member, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect nod to him and just, how they miss him. And that is shown perfectly through the music, through the lyrics. The opening of Shine On You Crazy Diamond is just absolutely gorgeous. Gilmour's guitar solo at the beginning is absolutely amazing. The callback to their very first single, See Emily Play, near the end, I believe it's on part 8. Just amazing all around. One of my favorite songs of all time. And the other 3 tracks are just as goddamn amazing as well. There's Welcome to the Machine, which, as I said in my tier list, it can be a little cheesy by today's standards, but it still sounds absolutely incredible, and it still has fantastic lyrics. You've got Have a Cigar, which is an absolute jam, and Roy Harper's singing on it is amazing. I love how it's a sequel to Money. That's just a really well done idea to have it be a sequel to a previous song they made. I think that's just really cool. And then you, of course, have the title track, Wish You Were Here, which is one of the band's most beautiful songs, and it's another tribute to Syd Barrett. Also, the cover is in my top 5 favorite covers of all time, I would say. It looks kind of shitty here because I got a pretty bad JPEG of it, but a fantastic cover, a fantastic album, and it is, in my opinion, Pink Floyd's best work. And I also recommend you go check out my Pink Floyd tier list if you're interested in hearing about more. But yeah, this album is just absolutely incredible. Alright, we have only a couple more here. Next up is Fleetwood Mac's Rumours, which I don't think this was going to be a surprise to anybody. This is one of the highest selling albums of all time for a reason, and it's because it's an absolute jam. All the members at this time were going through absolute hell and absolute turmoil. I just know that Stevie Nicks, just like all the band members, they were all going through hard times, divorces, marital struggles, addicted to drugs, just a whole bunch of stuff. Lindsay and Stevie they were going through a whole bunch of stuff, getting into arguments, stuff like that. So for them to come through and make an album of this high quality is just freaking amazing. Because this is one of the most well-known albums of all time. I guarantee everyone watching this knows this record, and for good reason, because the band as a whole were just at their prime, in my opinion, on this. You've got Secondhand News, the opener, which is just fun as hell. You have Stevie Nicks' Dreams, which was only written in 10 minutes, which is just mind-blowing for how outstanding the song is. You've got Never Going Back Again, just a fun little jam. Go Your Own Way, which is like one of the most singable songs ever. I don't know how you couldn't at least tap your toes or sing along to that. You've got The Chain, which is by far, in my opinion, the best song on here, even though I think all the other ones are classics. The Chain is one of my favorite songs ever, again, definitely in my top 25. And just from front to back, just amazing production, amazing, you can just tell the group was, despite all the hell they were going through, they collaborated and they were like, we are going to get this done and we're going to do it well, and they sure as hell did. And I really I can't praise it enough. I really can't. That's not even mentioning tracks like Don't Stop, which I haven't even covered, which is just another fantastic song, and it was Bill Clinton's theme song for his run in the election way back when, which is pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, just another 10 out of 10 record. I highly doubt that any of you haven't heard it, but if you have not, it is probably the one on here I recommend you start with the most, because it's probably the most accessible and just the most fun, I would say. The most fun, just from front to back. Alright, next up, I'm going to make this one pretty short. This is just going to be Miles Davis's Bitches Brew. I just want to say fantastic, fantastic, fantastic album. No lyrics at all. It's all just instrumentation, but this is Miles Davis's best work. It is a classic for a reason. The jazz features on here also are just incredible. There's only 4 tracks, but no, there's not only 4 tracks. There's a few tracks, but it's almost 2 hours long. It is a very long album, but The instrumentation is just so gripping and engaging, it'll keep you listening the entire way through. I highly guarantee it. If you're a big music buff like me and you don't have to have lyrics to enjoy an album, this is what I recommend to you. It is by far Davis's best work in my opinion. I love the cover, it's so surreal and odd, and I think that for anybody that enjoys the works of soul or jazz or funk or anything like that, highly give it a listen. It is a 10 in my opinion. Next up, I'm going to do another short one here. We just have Blue by Joni Mitchell. I've always been a big fan of this album. It's pretty short again. It's only 35 minutes, 10 tracks, not that long. I think this is her best writing. I think that her lyricism and her singing are the best on here. It just, so much emotion and care was put into all these tracks. You, of course, have California and River and A Case of You, which are all very, very well-known songs for good reasons. And I think that this album is just so well interwoven with all of its pieces and parts. And Joni Mitchell is one of my favorite singer-songwriters, I would say. Definitely like a top 15 for me. And it's just a very gorgeous record. This is one I just don't have a ton to say about. I just think it's well worth a listen. And I would consider it a 10, despite me not having a whole ton to say about it. It's just because it's more about the experience rather than what you can say about it. So I highly recommend everyone give it a nice listen if you haven't heard the whole thing front to back. Alright, I believe we've reached the end here, and this is going to be Wire's Pink Flag, which is another one on here that I just discovered recently. I actually discovered it via a video on their 100 favorite albums of all time, and I had never listened to this before. I never heard of the band. I was like, oh, who is this? So I gave them a listen, and I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is so different. And then I did some more research, and I found out this is the definitive post-punk record. The definitive punk record. This is it. This is the one that started it all, and it really, really shows. And one cool thing about this record is there's 21 songs, it's only 35 minutes long, and it manages to have an excellent flow. Because a lot of the songs on here are not even a minute long. They're just such good little jams that lead into another good little jam, and they'll do that for 3 or 4 songs until you finally get a longer track. The opener, I can never, is it Routers or is it Rooters? I can't ever figure it out, but I don't think it's Routers. But the opener is great, and it leads into, Field Day for the Sundays, and X-Lion Tamer, Lowdown, It's So Obvious, and Surgeon's Girl, and it just keeps going front to back. There's some tracks that are 40 seconds, there's some that are 4 minutes. I love the pace of it. I love how fast-paced it is, because a lot of records really aren't paced like that. I can't really think of many records where from front to back it's just non-stop short jam after short jam after short jam, and with a couple exceptions in there. Just really creative songwriting, really amazing vocals. It's just a jam from front to back. The main reason I have this as a 10 is for just how catchy it is, how fun it is, how just fast-paced and exciting it is, and for how amazing its influence is. So for those reasons, I would consider it a 10. And yeah, that is the final 10 out of 10 I have for the 70s. These are just, of course, all my opinions, and there are probably some I have missed, or some that other people would consider 10s that I don't. If there are any that I don't have on here that you recommend or just have different opinions about, please leave a comment below. I always love when people leave comments. I love chatting with everybody, so if you don't mind, go ahead and do that, and keep an eye out for my next video. So thank you all very much for watching.